Hi BookTube, it's Amy, and I'm back again reading from the Anatomy of Bibliomania by Holbrook Jackson. We are on page 124 of my edition, with a section titled of Letter Ferrets and Book Sots. I have sufficiently illustrated the power and fascination of study, and have done so more at large in my sections of reading and readers. Many will not believe all such stories to be true, but laugh commonly, and deride them when they read them. But let these men consider with themselves how many marvels are recounted daily, nay, hourly, throughout the world and the popular press, and that every day it is being proved to them that there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in their philosophy. But what more marvelous than that, as I have already hinted, so beneficent a faculty as study should not be wholly good, so many several ways are we plagued by ill-seeming and ill-usage, that even faculties excellent in themselves may become vanity and vexation of spirit. The testimony of Montaigne may not unfitly be added, for he has a whole essay of pedantism, the chief defect of scholarship, and in his vulgar Pergordan speech doth very pleasantly term such self-conceited wizards or pedants letter ferrets, book-struck men, to whom letters have given a blow as with a mallet. The shoemaker and the plain husbandman simply and naturally plod in their course, speaking only of what they know and no farther, whereas the letter-puffed pedants become, because they would fain raise themselves aloft, and with their literal doctrine which floateth up and down the superficies of their brain, arm themselves. They utter lofty words and speak golden sentences, but so that another man doth place fit and apply them. All theory, no practice. They are acquainted with Galen, but know not the disease. Their heads are stuffed with laws, but they cannot handle the case. If books, Lucian admonished such a student, have made you what you are, you ought, of all things, to avoid them. As Bacon reckons it up, to spend too much time in studies is sloth, to use them too much for ornament is affection. Hobbes bragged that his own reading was inconsiderable, but if he had spent as much time in reading as other men of learning, he should have been as ignorant as they. Petrarch is of the same opinion. He reproves a professor of Bologna for roving through volumes which are strange to him in order to insert extracts in his lectures, so that, stunned by the names of countless writers, his pupils think him omniscient. But real scholars, he warns us, are not to be deceived. They can tell what is borrowed or begged or stolen, and know the difference between a deep draught from any writer and a passing sip. Such a letter ferret, or thief of phrases, lives by making apathy. I know what that word is, but I cannot pronounce it apparently. Apatheisms, I think. Apatheisms. Lives by making apatheisms. Serve him for wit, seldom making any joke, says John Earl. But which belong to some Lacedaemonian or Roman in Lycaonians, he is like a dull carrier's horse that will go a whole week together, but never out of a foot pace, so that he that sets forth on the Saturday shall overtake him. He is no more than a pretender to learning, a scholar mountebank, who never talks anything but learning, and learns all from talking, like Sir Thomas Overbury's pedant, who never had meaning in his life, for he travelled only for words. A heteroclite, wanting the plural number, having only the single quality of words. A true scholar, philosopher, man of letters, will not pester his brains with idle punctilio and cavils. Old puns restore, lost blunders nicely seek, and crucify poor Shakespeare once a week. Such superfine, curious sort of learning signifies no more than a splendid foppery, to no manner of purpose, and we are no better for studies that furnish us with unactive thoughts and useless discourse. Students of this sort are mere parrots of scholarship, ossified academics, who miss the blossoms in a hedge of prickles. They cannot see the wood for the trees. How many have I seen in my days, exclaims Montaigne, by an over-greedy desire of knowledge, become, as it were, foolish, by which means, as Joseph Glanville follows it, read his Sepsis Scientifica, their vain idolizing of authors and the silly vanity of impertinent citations inducing authority in things neither requiring nor deserving it, produces ridiculous fooleries. 'Tis an inglorious acquist, he supposes, to have our heads or volumes laden, as were Cardinal Campion's his mules, with old and useless luggage. Methinks 'tis a pitiful piece of knowledge that can be learnt from an index, a poor ambition, he well says, to be rich in the inventory of another's treasure, to boast a memory, the most that these pendants can aim at, is but a humble ostentation. He desires rightly to be a fountain rather than a hogshead, and claims that 'tis better to own a judgment, though but with a curta supplex of coherent notions than a memory, like a sepulchre furnished with a load of broken and discarnate bones. And he concludes with what is more perpendicular to his discourse, that if we impartially look into the remains of antique ages, we shall find but little to justify so groundless a tyranny as antiquity hath imposed on the enslaved world. And that is the end of that section there of Letter Ferrets and Book Sots, relating to people who are kind of snatching or stealing their thoughts from other writers without perhaps understanding what it is they're reading, which is kind of ironic considering how many quotes Holbrook Jackson is absolutely stuffing this book with. I think he's using complex words and quotations for the sake of using complex words and quotations. This is by far the most difficult work I've ever sat down to read aloud, if only because there are so many unfamiliar words that I've not come across in my reading before, or words that I've come across but I've never had to pronounce aloud, words in languages that are not my mother tongue, and words that are pronounced differently because they're foreign and not of my Canadian English here. But that is the end of today's section. We're on page 126. The next section is titled Cure for Pedantry, which is about 2 pages long, and that'll take us to the end of part 7 of the book, and we'll be moving on to part 8, which is titled Of the Uses of Books. But we'll end it at that for today, putting our bookmark in here.